I thirst. The very mention of thirst has us feeling something a bit desperate in our throats. It is something vital which needs quick remedy. And that remedy can be obviously simple and needlessly challenging. In his final moments of his earthly life, Jesus was still present to his body. Jesus was still willing to express his physical needs. Jesus was still in dialogue with those whom he loved and those who reviled him. And just before he drew his last breath, he reminded them and us that he not only needs water, he also needs his people. In the presence of his mother and his friends and his strangers, we hear how he is expressing a most basic need, a most natural need, a most universal need. He cries out in the very throes of death that he is relying on his people. Jesus reminds us that his thirst is the embodiment of what he truly has always desired: us, God's people, to continue the work he began. In life and in death, Jesus dignifies his very humanness, his incarnation, his willingness to be human. He does this so that he could resonate with our humanness, our incarnation, forever. He expresses his undying hope for us by helping us practice justice, by simply asking for some water. But for us, are we able to offer a simple cup of water to a person in need? We cannot help but imagine the urge that Mary, his mother, and the disciples whom he loved, John and Mary of Magdala, likely had in wanting to satiate his thirst. Their love for Jesus must have rent their hearts in being so close and yet so far. His helplessness, their helplessness, their mutual bond cleaving in the excruciating chasm of mere feet, and yet obstructed by the monolith of state-sponsored violence. Each powerless, and yet still able to express hope in attending to basic human needs. We cannot help but remember what happened 5 years ago when another man whose life was violently being taken, and how he cried out to his mother and his neighbors, and how he asked for some water. As a nation, we felt powerless, witnessing society extinguish yet another black life. George Floyd cried out for something which should be as basic as water. George Floyd was crying out for justice, for mercy, for dignity. Somewhere between the execution of Jesus and the execution of George Floyd, many of us have failed to remember how a little bit of water and a little bit of justice are our bond to each other and to God. Through the waters of baptism, we vow to serve Jesus in all people, The waters of baptism we receive and each cup of water we offer also liberate us from the death-dealing, soul-crushing forces of every kind of injustice. In what we give, we shall receive. The waters of baptism are the same waters where God promises to be present in times of turmoil and injustice. That cup of water and that sprinkling of baptismal water are the smallest expressions of the infinite vastness of life-giving water God provides so we might be in right relationship with God and with each other. We cannot help but be moved when Howard Thurman reminds us that in the troubled waters of life, there are healing waters, because God is in the midst of the turmoil. Dr. Thurman encourages us further when he says, "Do not shrink from moving confidently into choppy waters. Wade in the water, because God is troubling the water." You know that St. Paul stands with Dr. Thurman when he tells us in the letter to the Romans, if God is with us, who can be against us? We cannot help but serve the community beyond St. Bart's in providing a cup of water or an encouraging word or a silent prayer or whatever life requires of us. Amidst turmoil and death, degradation and erasure, God is so confident that we will wade into the world's troubled waters because that is where God's people in need are. And it is exactly where God is. When we are in the water, we are not alone, and we cannot fail. So, my siblings in Christ, let us wade into the waters and meet God and God's people who are hurting, who are struggling, who are literally dying because of the world's injustices. Let us be the embodiment of justice so no one will ever have to endure the torture Jesus endured and the fatal terror to which George Floyd and too many others have been too long subjected. My siblings in Christ, our world thirsts, our world hurts, our world is being denied the water of justice. Let us take the water of our faith and quench the thirst of injustice.